and you can smoke cigars in it. Is that true?
Does it?
Can you smoke cigars in the? Or am I getting them confused with the cigars?
Casinos are weird. Like some
casinos are like a totally. Different,
it's a total because you're dealing with different laws, different things. I know here locally you were allowed to smoke cigars, but not at table games. So if you were at the slot games or in the bar, but then they did away with that. Now there's a cigar bar.
Yeah,
yes,
but that's Mohegan is like that.
Yeah,
Mohegan,
but if you go to the
cigar bar.
Yeah. So Mohegan, there's a dedicated section just for cigars. Now Twin River, or Bally's now, right?
Is that what it's called? Yeah, because I'm going there Saturday.
Yeah, so, they have a cigar lounge, but it's really just a circle that's open air. Open space. I mean.
Really?
So there's no like entranceway. You just kind of like, how casinos just have like different pathways.
Yeah.
So you can walk into the bar all different ways.
It's like the wolf
But
den.
there's no exactly. There's no like glass or divider in the room to separate the cigar. It's just a section. So
that's cool.
Welcome to Rhode Island. But anyway,
welcome to New England. Yeah.
I'm bringing cigars with me when we go tomorrow night.
Yeah.
You'll be fine until you sit at the table. If you sit at the table, and again, it's up to subject of the dealer, because I've had friends that have gone and they were able to smoke cigars, but some of the dealers are like, excuse me, sir, you can't have a cigar. Meanwhile, everybody on your left and right is smoking a cigarette, but I'm sure that's another topic for another show, but not this one.
So, I mean, just to put it
crazy.
into perspective, the cigar lounge after renovations is going to be 3,100 square feet. And they added a simulator. It's a $50,000 simulator that they added to the cigar bar.
Wow.
Yeah. It's pretty cool.
Wow.
It's pretty cool. I like it.
So full disclosure, I only started smoking regularly probably 5 years ago. And because of a friend who started giving me a lot of Davidoff cigars, I got more and more into it. And now I'm at the point where now I have 3 lockers at this lounge. I visited a lot of different lounges, and I recently just became a minority owner of the lounge I go to.
Nice.
Oh, good for you. You've come a long way in 5 years.
All right. And I think the key thing about a lounge is it should attract a diverse group of people, and not just, I speak as an old guy, not just old people, but a diverse group of people to come in and to stay and have conversations and to feel comfortable and to enjoy what's available. And that golf idea, I'm trying to think of how I could include that in the lounge.
Look at that. Look at that.
That's like a phenomenal idea.
If I ever visit California, I want a free day pass, man. But no, it is an awesome idea. We talk about it on this show all the time.
But like Jim, you've got my gears turning in like a business idea. Like, what are the other attractions that we go to where you're like, it'd be really nice to have a cigar, right? Like, is it an arcade? Is it bowling?
There's so much. I mean, I know.
Some of them are not conducive. Bowling, maybe.
Yeah, the place in Richmond, and again, it's
bowling, maybe.
It's only it only happens obviously when the weather permits. But they have like outdoor axe throwing. Cornhole, that kind of stuff, right? So they have that. They have the axe throwing cages. They can.
You need a special license for that?
In Rhode Island, probably, and you're probably paying a little bit extra tax too. So I mean, and California is no better, if not worse. So as far as regulation is concerned, so
those are assault axes. So you need a special.
Right. And then insurance is just going to cost you an arm and a leg to be able to do that too. So
literally an arm and a leg.
But Jim, you were talking about attracting diverse groups, right? And one of the articles that Paul put in here was, I want to try to get my girlfriend to enjoy cigars.
Oh, it's a good segue.
Well, I mean, for me, it's about how do I bring people into the community? Because the cigar community is such an awesome community. So friendly. We want to help each other learn. We're very, serving, right? Like I told you, I belong to a lot of these groups, and I'll get stuff in the mail, unsolicited, nothing like, hey, just wanted to send you 10 sticks and a lighter because you're part of this group, right? And people just do that. And it's just such a great community of sharing information, sharing what you have in your collection. How do we get more people involved? Because there's such a huge stigma around tobacco.
Yes.
Right?
Especially cigars.
But yeah, there's such a huge stigma. And we talk about it. There's this kind of umbrella view of it. Lumped in with cigarettes, lumped in with vape, lumped in with all these other things. When, we're talking about premium cigars. We're talking about enjoying premium cigars, and it's so different. How do we start attracting people into this community? So I thought that article was very interesting because how do I get my wife to start smoking a cigar one day?
Well, the answer's simple. We just need pineapple raspberry flavored cigars.
Right? Do they make Truly cigars? White Claw cigar.
But that gets into, so we get into flavors of any tobacco product and vape.
Yeah.
Those have come under scrutiny,
Right.
from various state and local governments, right? Mm-hmm. Which is kind of, it's kind of unfortunate because I think again, politics comes down to appealing to your base.
Yep.
Your base says tobacco is evil.
Yeah.
So any legislation we can pass that takes the tobacco out of the hands of children, even though, maybe vapes aside, right? The flavors maybe not as what attracting them. And cigars, I think, are in that category where younger folks just aren't seeking out cigars. But
Absolutely
flavored cigars come under scrutiny. And you have to define what a premium cigar is versus not a premium cigar as well. I don't think that the youth are attracted to going into a cigar lounge and paying $5 or more for a premium cigar, whether it's flavored or not. I just don't think that's a thing.
Agreed.
But they have come under scrutiny. That being said, I don't know where the laws stand on flavored cigars today across the states. Where do we stand with that in Rhode Island? Does anyone know? In California, Jim, do you know? Flavored cigars, are they banned? It's a no-no?
It's a no-no.
So shops in California cannot sell flavored cigars?
I haven't seen a flavored cigar in a while.
I think we
of course, I'm only going to lounges and cigar shops that sell, their starting price is $15 a stick.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not. The places I've gone to don't sell acid. They don't sell, other things. So it could just be that I haven't seen it, but I do know that in California, all flavorings are no.
Yeah. See, I don't think it's illegal around the state. I think individual municipalities have banned flavored tobacco, and it's flavored tobacco.
Like in California, they said no more menthol cigarettes can be sold.
Well, that's interesting. I think they were talking about that in Rhode Island.
And so these great entrepreneurs came up with this little tiny device like the size of a lighter that has the little menthol balls, and you stick it on the end of your cigarette, and it pushes the menthol ball into the filter, and so you get it right back. Then you just squeeze the ball, and you have your menthol cigarette.
I love how technology solves that problem.
Exactly.
For people.
Hacking the laws, baby. Hacking the laws.
In the answer in Massachusetts, absolutely positively not. No, absolutely
no flavored
tobacco.
No flavored tobacco. There's potential legislation with pipe. The only reason why is I consult for a pipe tobacco company in Massachusetts, so I'm very familiar with both laws, and then obviously being on stogies, I'm familiar with the Rhode Island law there too. But in Rhode Island, they're still just capped and regular, and then treated as that.
I thought so because
it's so funny too because
how does that affect like the Pappy Van Winkle cigars that you can buy?
Right.
Well, I can tell you logistically, depending on the actual shop, most flavored cigars are in a separate humidor. So usually a separate case. Now, if you stick them in a big giant retail humidor, there's so much in and out traffic. You would have to leave it dormant for like 3 months for you to notice that the acids are seeping into the Perdomos or the Padrones. You know what I mean? Yeah. But because of the foot traffic, it's really not there. But it's
no. I mean from a flavored cigar perspective.
Oh, because it has a sweet tip.
Yeah. How do you
How is that classified? Because it's an added flavor. It aged in a ex Pappy Van Winkle barrel for a number of months.
Yeah, that's a good point because Diesel makes those cask cigars that are cast in bourbon barrels.
What's the definition of that? Is that considered? What is that considered though? Is that considered infused? Because I know people who do that. They'll put They'll put cigars in like a Tupperware,
Yeah.
with coffee beans,
We
and let it sit there, and then
Yeah.
it'll have a little.
You can
bit
do
of
that with
a coffee taste.
Pete
right?
Johnson was telling me he used to do that with pipe tobacco.
Yeah.
He'd take a cigar and put it in a bag of
You're right.
pipe tobacco and
That's
leave
right.
it for
Yeah.
a month or so.
Yeah. So I mean,
a friend of mine yesterday, I helped her do it. She has a Tupperware container, and she put a bunch of her own cigars inside the Tupperware container and put 4 little Dixie cups filled with rum,
Yep.
and closed it up.
Yep.
And her idea is give it a couple weeks and let's see what flavors we
right?
get.
Give it 6 months and see what kind of flavor you get. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Let it sit for a while. But yeah, I mean, is that infused? Is that different than what acid does? I don't know. I don't like acids. I've never. Like,
Yeah,
I'm not-
they don't disclose all the details of how they infuse acid. It's a patented,
got it.
trade
Got it.
secret. Actually, how they do the acid infusion. I do know that they have special rooms that have special woods and special infusion methods, and they put the tobacco in those rooms. I mean, I kind of think of it from everything what they will tell you is I think it's kind of similar to you have your home infusers. My wife loves the home infusers.
Yep.
And then you have a special one of those that goes in the room and is infusing the tobacco.
Okay.
Now, obviously, there's a lot more to it. If they were able to patent it and make it a trade secret and all that, there's a lot more to
Yeah,
it.
of
But that's
course,
how I
of
think of how they're infusing acids. And some of the acids aren't bad. Every once in a while, I might have one, but I haven't had any flavored or infused cigars in quite some time.
Yeah,
Well, it wouldn't be patented if it's a trade secret.
Yeah, you're right. I'm confusing those terms together. Maybe it's just a trade. Maybe it's just a trade secret, and they don't actually have a patent. Because if they patented it, wouldn't the patent
Everyone
filing,
would know.
The patent filing would be public.
Right. Yeah. Exactly it.
So I think you're
exactly it.
Thank you for that correction, Jim.
But to answer-
I think is in Jim's correction is I think correct. It is a trade secret.
But
Not
to
a
answer
patent.
Jason's question, you can't sell acids in Massachusetts
You
Yeah.
can't.
legally. Cannot.
Okay.
Because it's considered quote unquote flavored, even though it's infused.
And it just shows how screwy the laws are, though, right?
Yes,
because
they
I
are.
looked up the Rhode Island law, and it says 3 cities have banned the sale of flavored tobacco, any type of product, except for menthol, mint, and wintergreen. So they make these crazy exceptions, right? And then any hookah bar is exempt.
Wow. But that's
Like, how screwed up is that?
hookah tobacco's. I think kind of gross in my
Honestly, yeah, I
opinion.
don't like
Unicorn piss.
But
Yeah,
but I think
you call it?
I think with a hookah bar, you're targeting a certain person who goes to the hookah bar, and that would be considered a bad thing when you target an individual.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No,
Yes.
yeah, totally.
Yes. Because years ago we discussed opening like a hookah lounge when they were popular,
Yeah.
and you can't serve alcohol in a hookah bar.
You can't?
It is a municipality like the city of Warwick, where we are.
Gotcha.
Has passed legislation, many others have as well, that you cannot serve alcohol because hookah attracts a younger crowd, and there was too much
Yeah.
underage drinking historically.
Yep.
And a lot of cities and towns said, no, if you're a hookah bar, yeah, we might give you a license for that, but it can't be in a same establishment that serves alcohol.
So that's home rule law. That's local municipality
Correct.
law
Correct.
or ordinance, right? Because I know the place in Providence does hookah and cigars. What is it, Tel Aviv?
Yeah.
They do both, right?
Yeah.
and they serve alcohol.
And they
so
serve
maybe
alcohol
Providence-
and
yeah.
food.
Have
Yes.
you met the owner of Tel Aviv?
I have not.
He can do whatever he wants.
Hey,
No,
nobody-
no, he's not Italian.
Oh, no?
He's,
That's a very Rhode Island thing.
No,
Yeah.
he can if he wants to have a church there and stay open past midnight or 1 or 2 or whatever
Yeah,
the
yeah.
curfew is,
Hey.
I'm sure he could figure a way out.
Good on it. Good on it.
It's craziness.
Oh, and for those keeping track, first pour was King of Kentucky.
Very nice. Very nice. We're
nice.
actually we're doing beer. We're doing IPAs today. We're
yeah,
doing,
we should talk about what we're drinking and smoking.
cigar-
Thank you, Jim, for that
Yeah,
reminder.
yeah, yeah. Cigar City
high low. Cigar City Brewing. I'm doing the high low India Pale Ale.
Yep, and I'm doing the High Lie Spanish Cedar. Really good. And you said these guys
Spanish
are from
Cedar?
Ybor City?
Yes.
They're
Yeah,
from Ybor City.
yeah, Tampa, Florida.
Yep. So Spanish Cedar. Yeah, it's really good.
Yep.
As in,
City
it was
Brewery.
aged in Spanish cedar.
I don't. All
Spanish
I'm doing.
cedar
All I'm doing is
barrels?
drinking. I haven't read anything about it yet.
That'd be kind of interesting to age a spirit or beer in a Spanish cedar barrel. I wonder if is that possible?
Well,
Why not?
not?
Right? It's wood.
So it says the bold citrus qualities of High Lie IPA are complemented by sandalwood and cracked pepper notes imparted by Spanish cedar. The same wood
Is it like the
used
wood
in
of the
humidors.
sandals of people in the cigar factory, and then they take them after a certain period
That's
of time?
sandal leather.
That's sandalwood.
Sandal leather.
Gives a very special flavor to that.
It's a funk.
Oh, but while we're on that topic, I do want to get back to my girlfriend wants to start smoking.
Yes.
We're
Oh, yeah.
off on a
Yes,
tangent
yes.
there.
We totally went off the
But
rails.
since we're on infusion, this article was titled "Ghost Busting," and I was like, "Well, what does this have to do with cigars, pipes, and tobacco?" And I've realized recently that the pipes have like these very unique things to pipes. And I was looking at like when you have a chemical burn in your mouth and how long after you can smoke. Why was I looking at that? Because something happened. I had a cut in my mouth, or it burned the roof of my mouth really bad, or something like that. And I was like, wow.
They make antibiotics for that.
Yes. I forget exactly now. What was I had some kind of injury or something happened in my mouth, and I was like, should I really be smoking? Maybe I should take some time off. And when I searched for it, a thing came up of, what do they call it when you get a chemical? It's basically a chemical burn if you smoke too much pipe tobacco in an extended period of time. Really? You actually get a chemical burn in your mouth, and you have to stop smoking for a while. I forget what that's called. There's a term for it.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, I don't know what it's called, but it does happen because...
Or you continue smoking and you let it callus up.
That too.
Well, that. Yep. You can
The
do
manly way. But this is called ghosting, ghost busting. So ghosting happens when you smoke like a particular flavored or infused pipe tobacco in your pipe, and it actually, the flavor gets infused in the
Briar.
Thank you. In the briar, and you can't get it out of the briar. Like in the article talks about like, what was he doing? Activated charcoal,
Really?
like all these different methods to cleanse. But wood is so, I mean, as we know, right, Jim, from aging in barrels, wood is very porous. And once a flavor or something like that gets infused in wood, like I don't think you're getting it out. Like,
You actually...
that's your pipe for that tobacco. Basically.
Yeah. The I've participated in a couple cigar testing blends for Alec Bradley and Rojas Cigars, and in the pipe world, the company that I do the e-commerce for, he actually blends a specific pipe tobacco for your pipe tobacco club. So there's a whole like fee and beakabakaboo. And so I've been involved in many test blends for that. The two answers I have. Number one is you could do the pull approach, and that's the tobacco you have for that pipe, especially if you love that tobacco and say you smoked it for like a week straight, right? And so it's really in the briar.
Right.
But there's also, actually I have a tool where you can grab it by the handle. It's only like 2 fingers, right? And it's got the metal bristles, and it goes through the pipe, and you actually scrape left, right. It'll come out and actually clean the actual sediment and all that within the briar. You can absolutely...
And that'll take the flavor out?
That will take the flavor
Yeah?
out. Yeah. I mean, you have to really work at it to actually take the flavor out.
You don't really want to do that to your pipes either, because that cake is that's the right term for it. The cake is important for a pipe.
Yes. So you most pipe...
You're sacrificing the cake.
Yeah. So most pipe tobacco smokers should have multiple pipes. So they would probably take your approach. Okay, this is my cherry Cavendish or my wild blueberry or whatever maple flavored pipe, and this is what I want for either straight Latakia or Oriental or true, what I call like tobacco.
The natural tobacco?
Yes.
Yeah, got it. So nicotine stomatitis is the burn in your mouth.
I remember what it was now. I bit my tongue really bad.
Oh, no.
almost had to go seek medical attention because it would not stop bleeding. Like it bled they're like, if it bleeds for more than 45 minutes, like you should probably seek medical attention. And I was going on an hour and it was still bleeding. And I was putting the ice on it. And like finally it stopped. I'm like, it friggin' hurt. And then I was like, wait, when I have dental work done, they tell you not to smoke.
Sure.
Now I have this wound on my tongue. I'm like, I don't know if I want to smoke. And I'm searching now, like, how long after you bite your tongue can you smoke a cigar? Like, I need this, I need to know, like, that an answer, right? Maybe I'll average all the answers together. And it was pipe tongue.
Pipe tongue.
Pipe tongue is what I kept coming across pipe tongue. Like, what the hell is pipe? And finally I came across an article. It's like, yes, if you smoke too many pipes in a row for like a day, you get pipe tongue, and it's actually a chemical burn on your tongue. And they were recommending you take a couple of days off from smoking pipes. I'm like, well, I don't have that. I did take a day or two off from smoking cigars because I didn't want to get infected.
Yeah.
So.
You know, there is a medical term for the burning your roof of your mouth, nicotine stomatitis. I looked it up.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's when the smoke burns the roof of
the roof.
Yeah,
of
the
your
roof of the
mouth.
mouth. And you know what's crazy? If I smoke one particular stick, and this has been going on for 8 years. If I
certain
smoke
brand?
certain brand,
certain kind.
certain brand, certain kind, and the cigar only came out 10 years ago, and they celebrate the 10th anniversary, so you can kind of guess, right? If I smoke one brand, one stick, I get that every single time I smoke. It ruins my palate. It's amazing.
Really?
Yes, it's just one brand. It's just the way that the nicotine hits the roof of my mouth, or the way that is. Now, the only way I can outdo that or avoid that, which I finally figured out, actually figured it out this year. I just avoided the stick altogether. But then it happened again. I was like, God damn it, it's the stick again.
Careful, that's opened.
Yep. Right? So I was like, whatever. I actually used the bullet cut to avoid the flume of smoke, and that did the trick.
Interesting. Now, Jim, when I bit my tongue, I was like, well, I need to disinfect my mouth. And I'm like, whiskey's a great way to do that. I'm like, I'll just drink a bunch. I'll just keep drinking a bunch. Perfect. Right? It was perfect. It was great.
And all I can think about when you guys are talking about this is the cure for certain diseases 100 years ago was to blow smoke up your ass.
It was. Yes, that was a thing.
Literally?
Literally.
Yeah. No. That's where that came from.
Yeah.
There's actually a little diaphragm device that they would fill with smoke and then stick it up and blow it up.
Dude, can you imagine having that job? That'd be pretty crazy.
God.
Right?
What are you? I'm an ass smoker.
Hold on, I got a fix. I got a fix for you.
Don't try this at home. It is not anything they talk about in like medieval medicine or early medicine is not something you want to try.
Can I find one of those on eBay? I want to see what they look like.
Can you imagine if there are lounges like that?
Oh my God.
It's like a hookah bar, but different.
But different.
But different.
You definitely want your own tip, and you don't want to confuse the tips from the
So I was really disappointed when I learned that Paul's not going to RSA.
I am not going to RSA. Is a security conference that happens in San Francisco every year. I am not going this year. What happened is I submitted a talk and it got rejected, and then I was like, "Screw you guys, I'm not going."
my ego won't let me go.
I can't.
And because I got invites for the Wingtip Club, which is this really fancy cigar experience on the 10th floor.
Yeah, see, now I want to go. Now everyone started describing all the cool things that they're going to. All my friends are describing these cool things they're going to, and I'm like, now I really want to go. Damn it.
Whoops.
And I had Year of the Rabbit, Davidoff.
Oh, yeah.
For Paul. And then
more reasons to
listen,
go.
Listen, he doesn't bite on that. I tried to get him to join the 300th episode of BSW with the Year of the Rabbit, and he still didn't show up.
I'm very stingy with my time recently.
It's all good.
And then a 10-ounce mini bottle from my Infinity Barrel. See, I had all these things lined up for you.
Why don't you just fly to his house, Paul, after the RSA and just have a good time?
Well, because I'm going to a conference after RSA and speaking in Baltimore.
Oh yeah! See, hooray for that conference! RSA, they should have hired. They should have had you speak.
Jeff Mann and I are already planning our cigar adventures for next weekend in Baltimore.
Very cool.
Which will be fun. But yeah.
What are the spots in Baltimore? Have you eyeballed them yet?
I don't know. I know so many people live in Baltimore.
They just go with them.
Yeah, we'll just go with them. So,
all right, when you go to Baltimore, you have to go past my first ship I was on. It's it's a museum in Baltimore Harbor.
Oh, nice.
Is that the one you post about all the time?
Yeah.
Nice. That's cool.
Is that the one that you send something to the?
No, that's a different one.
Oh, okay.
No, that's I randomly send donations to Coast Guard and Navy ships that are going underway for extended periods to help the morale fund out.
That's awesome.
Anywhere from $5 to $10,000 worth of stuff.
That's awesome.
Amazing. Those are active ships that you're sending to.
Correct.
But your first ship is now a museum.
Correct.
Also, Gotti's having the old farts party at RSA. And there was much debate as to like who qualifies for that.
What's the criteria for old fart?
But also, I'm like, Gotti, I can't make it, assuming that I would qualify. I'm like, but also your party starts at 8:30, and that's like really close to my bedtime. So I guess in that sense, I do qualify.
Oh my God, that's great. Did you see the article about how many cigar imports happened over the course of 2022?
Yep, it rose again.
Amazing.
Rose again.
Amazing. In a year that we didn't think it was going to rise. Mm-hmm. I mean, it hit 464 million.
But that's comparison to the previous year?
Yes.
Comparison to the previous year, which was a record year. 2021 was a record year.
In 2020, a record year compared to 2020? Or record year
history.
In history.
It's historically.
It's going up regardless of COVID.
Right.
Because you know where I'm going with that. Because COVID, you couldn't get a container ship to actually ship cigars.
Yep.
So that hurt a lot. But 2021 was a record year for all cigar imports.
Yep. And we beat it by 2.3% in 2022.
The 42 shops in Rhode Island, I think, contributed to pushing it.
I was going there too. Right? I was like, thank you, Rhode Island.
Million?
That's right.
What's that, Jim?
Total import of cigars, is that the $424 million or 424 million?
Cigars.
Sticks?
464.5 million premium cigars in 2022. Sticks.
That doesn't seem like a lot, you know that?
It's not, because it's really not, Jim, but less than 2% of the U.S. population smokes premium cigars.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see where the numbers are on the cigar smokers, the percentage of U.S. population that smokes cigars. I've, over the years, read several articles and studies on this, and I've seen it range anywhere from 1% to 5%. As low as 1,
of the
as high as
population
5, and everywhere in between.
Yep.
So if you average those out, right, let's just say 2.5. But I'd like to see an accurate study of current today.
Yep.
What is the because obviously that percentage changes, and if we're importing more cigars, you would also think the percentage of cigar smokers has gone up. And if you also looked at how many new lounges are opening, we certainly see that here in this state. But I wonder if that's got to be a thing across the country. That's be another interesting stat to measure as well.
Yeah, I mean, they did include stats in here where it says the strongest import was Nicaragua.
Of course. Yep.
250.8 million cigars. Mm-hmm. Dominican Republic was second.
Interesting.
With 128.9 million. And then Honduras with 83 million.
Right.
You know, it's kind of crazy. I've spoke about this since January 2nd, 2017 throughout this whole show, where Nicaraguan, a couple years ago, you wouldn't be able to say that. Like it was always Dominican Republic. And I said, there's a Nicaraguan boom. That's why they're coming out with these complex Connecticut's where you have a Nicaraguan binder and filler with a Connecticut wrapper. Nicaragua is now officially the king of
How many? I wonder how many cigars are produced domestically.
Yeah, right.
Oh, there's a couple. There's probably, I mean, regardless of the roller, you mean from like a bigger company, like a JC Newman has one. Now
the cigars made here, grown here, rolled here that don't have to be imported.
Oh, there's not that many.
It's like Pennsylvania and Florida.
Yeah,
right?
like under 10, guaranteed.
Connecticut?
Now,
Connecticut mostly exports, though.
Now, right, but now Potagus, I don't know if anybody posted this. I didn't review the articles, but Potagus is doing an American rolled here version, but they've dragged the tobacco from over there to put it over here.
How do you
Cohiba does that.
Yeah.
Everybody does that. I mean, Cohiba came out with the Cohiba Miami, to pay homage to there. And it's amazing because then people are like, well, I really think they should roll more cigars in America. And I'm like, yeah, if they roll cigars in America, we're not going to be paying $12 a stick or $14 California price, we're going to be spending $25 a stick just because of labor.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So
Well,
yeah.
wait, so what you're really saying is in California, I'll be paying $50 a stick.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
right.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Now-
A $22 Davidoff here is a $42 Davidoff at RSA.
Yeah, easy.
Easy. Like I remember that. I was like, where am I? Oh yeah, I'm in California.
Yeah, right. Now they did say that obviously Cuban cigars are not counted in this
Of course.
because they're illegal and they're not accounting for it. So that number is greater, but
Of course it is. Yep. Yep. But I'd be
'cause
interested in
you can't count
I'd be
that.
interested in seeing
No one would admit to importing
Exactly.
Cuban cigars.
That's
It's
the whole
illegal.
point. That's the whole
even
point.
though that they're counting sticks, I'd be interested to find out like what the cadence of the buyer is. Like, are we counting like, when you say 5%, is that someone who smokes a cigar
Yes.
a week?
Yes.
Is that someone like us who smokes a cigar or more a day? You know what I mean? I'd be interested to see those numbers. It'd be super interesting. Because I bet you if you go more than 5 sticks a week, say you smoke one a day for 5 days and let your palate rest, which we're obviously at this table more than that a week for sure. But like, I bet you that number is probably closer to 4%.
Oh, but speaking of that, so how do we get more people to smoke
yeah,
cigars?
right.
Show them a good time.
Because I think if you talk about the kind of atypical female smoker, right? Your first kind of thought is gravitate towards a flavored or infused cigar, which I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence on. I think it greatly depends on the person.
Yes, absolutely.
It's knowing your audience, right?
Yes.
It's absolutely knowing your audience. I mean, there are so many people that were kind of a cigar, like
There's
friends who would
occasional.
smoke an occasional cigar.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden you start connecting with them and building relationships with them and having the conversations around in depth about the cigars, right? And about how they're made and what kind of tobaccos. And you start really getting them into the community and engaging in the community. You start really bringing them deeper into the enjoyment of being in that cigar family, right? I mean, in all honesty, I mean, perfect example, my buddy Frank, who's out there right now, who came today. We've smoked a couple cigars in the past, but now he's starting to talk about, hey, I really like Tatuaje. I really like, you know what I mean? And it's pretty cool to start getting people engaged and teaching them about the craft.
Right. But they also have to listen.
Yeah.
I
Be
remember
receptive.
I was coming out of work here one day, and there was 2 people getting in the car, and all of a sudden I hear the passenger car door open. They hadn't left the parking spot yet. Passenger car door is open, and I hear vomiting. Just vomiting, and I look over, and there's just like vomiting, spewing all over the parking lot. And I'm like, I'm out of here. And I'm like, I know exactly what happened. His friend came with him to the cigar lounge, and his friend was like, I want to get into smoking cigars. Like, it sounds fun. And his friend probably told him, like, dude, like, you should probably eat
something
before you have a cigar. If you don't smoke a lot of cigars, and you should probably smoke something light. It's probably whatever. Like, give me that Tatuaje, with the Nicaraguan tobacco in it, and it's not going to end up good.
No, I work in a retail cigar place, and
What's your puking average?
no,
What's the ratio?
no, it's kind of funny because like someone always comes in who's new. I work on a Saturday night, right? I work one Saturday a month over there, and it's in Newport, Rhode Island, so it's a tourist attraction. You get a lot of people in the summer time, baby. People. Well, I used to smoke cigarettes when I was smaller, but I stopped smoking cigarettes. So what do you think I should get? I'm like, well, I think you should start light. You should do this. And by the way,
always start light.
But I also tell them in a little bit of education, your methodology for smoking cigarettes
totally different,
and your cadence needs to be completely different. It's a different animal. And then I usually start them small. And then in regards to the female, I've had experience where this guy comes in. He's from Spain, lives in Newport. He hangs out there all summer. So I'm in my year 2. So I've met him over the 2 summers. And, we were talking, and he comes in. He speaks broken English, but he was asking me about what I had per roller. So he's like, do you have any Lido Gomez? Do you have any Ernesto Perez Carrillo? Do you have a Padron? Blah, 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 And so I understood it. So I was like, okay, sure. Helped him out. and his wife would always do flavored flavors. And she goes, and she was a Spanish lady. They're from Miami, and she goes, you know, Newport's. My husband likes this place. Newport's not like Miami. I says, sweetie, our best day will never beat Miami.
Yeah.
I love Miami. So I opened up to her. Point of the story is she's like, I've always smoked flavored. My husband wants me to try a regular cigar. I says, I got the perfect cigar for you, right? I opened the wrapper, scanned it in the tab, I cut it for her, I lit it for her. She asked the bartender for the she was drinking an old fashioned, right, with her husband. She asked the bartender for the cherry stick so she could do like the kind of like, I don't say roach clip or whatever, right, to nub it. She nubbed this thing down and she goes, thank you very much. I turned her on to Arturo Fuente's short story.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because female short, you know, you don't want to overwhelm her with like a Toro or a Churchill.
But I think in general,
and she loves it.
I get that from new cigar smokers. They don't want a large cigar.
Right.
Like it's
Agreed.
It's intimidating. They don't want to sit there for that long.
Yep.
Like they have this kind of stigma where they're like, how do you smoke a cigar? Like you need 2-3 hours in.
Yep.
Yeah, somebody's like, how can you spend like 2 hours in a cigar lounge? I'm like, dude, I'm in a cigar lounge from like 9 in the morning till 5.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm doing work, but you know, and quite frankly, I'll probably go through like 3 cigars.
I mean,
That being said, there is one cigar in my humidor here that is absolutely massive, and I can't bring myself to smoke it.
Oh,
it's,
the Asylum.
It's like 9.
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
this is not. It's one from Holtz.
Oh,
It's 9.5 by like 70.
that's like the Woody. Isn't the Woody like a huge?
Yeah, it looks. It is. There have been variations on this, but this one comes from Holtz, and it's like one of their house brands, and it's in this giant coffin, and it looks like. Remember when you used to go to the Paw Sox game here in Pawtucket, Rhode Island? And you get the little bat? That's what it reminds me of. It's like a miniature baseball bat, Jim. Like you can literally like hold it like a miniature baseball
Souvenir bat.
And
You have to do like intermission breaks every hour.
yeah, like I can't bring
Well, they
myself
have
to smoke it
contests.
to. Like because I'd be so committed to that.
Doesn't Shenanigans up in New Hampshire have a contest on smoking either the Asylum or the Woody or something like that? They do contests.
LFD also made a really long cigar. It wasn't as thick a ring gauge, but it was 9+.
Yeah.
And I remember I lit it up, and remember we were taking pictures of me smoking it, and I'm like, I gotta go next door. Like I gotta show Todd. And I walked out the door, and before I could open the door, the end of the cigar hit the door.
That's like a movie. Oh my god, that's so funny. That's so funny.
That's when you know that the cigar is just too big.
Right.
It's a novelty.
Yeah.
Eric on YouTube says, my wife will have an occasional cigar with me. She likes the Blanco Primo's Classic Maduro, and it's not infused. You know what I mean? So, I mean, again, so how do we answer the question? How do you get your girlfriend or significant other
Or anybody. I mean, anybody.
to rationalize?
Yeah, some of the infused stuff, like my wife has smoked some cigars with me over the years. Not recently, but to her credit, she's tried it. Sometimes I would give her a flavored cigar, and she's like, "That's awful."
Right. Yeah.
And it was a nicer flavored cigar. She's like, "I don't like that."
Right.
And then I'd give her a different flavored cigar that maybe wasn't even as expensive, and she's like, "I like that one better." So like everyone's taste.
You have to know your audience.
Yeah, everyone's taste is different.
And for us who are experienced, it's about being a good steward of the craft and being a good steward of this isn't an opportunity to haze people.
Right.
This is an opportunity to teach people and be a good steward of the craft.
But Jim, I don't know if you've experienced this. I know you like David Off cigars a lot, and so do I. But I tend not to give those to new cigar smokers. Because if they get tired and they pitch it before it's halfway done, like I cry.
Oh my God,
I cry
absolutely.
a little inside.
Yeah, that's why I don't give away Padrones and absolutely, it's the truth.
Has that happened to you,
100%
Jim?
truth.
Have you given someone like a $30 Davidoff and they don't finish it, and you're like,
Yes, actually, that actually happened 2 weeks ago for the same exact cigar I'm smoking right now, the limited edition 2022.
Yep.
I handed out 3 of them to 3 of my friends who had never smoked before. One lit it, took 2 puffs, and went, "No, not for me."
Oh God.
Yeah, I do you know
It's
how
like,
many?
Yes,
Ow.
totally.
how good of a friend though? And you're like, I'll just take that. I'm gonna finish that.
Well, I did. Actually, I don't want to say it, but I said, "Your germs are fine with me.
Yeah,
Give
right.
it back."
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm working tomorrow at the cigar lounge, and I will throw away at least 4 $50
Oh my
Davidoff
God.
cigars, because what happens is, we have the Navy War College next
Yes.
door and stuff like that. So a guy will come in who's like a diehard and we know him, blah, blah, blah. And then he brings in a Navy friend and he's like, I'll have what he's having. I'm like, okay, would you like a recommendation? First of all, it's half the price where I'm going to recommend you.
Are you sure about
And
that?
I think of that. No, I want what he's having. Okay, sure. I don't argue. That's cool. He wasn't up to being educated or receptive to that. And like he'll smoke like 2 inches of it, and like I'll throw him away. Matter of fact, if I throw any away, I will post them on Facebook and tag you in it. Like I'm throwing this out. I'm throwing it. Dude, it's so crazy.
It's
dude.
not, but it's not so much the price for me, as much as it
but
is
yeah.
if I give someone something that can't be or is difficult to recreate. If it's a rare or limited cigar you're never going to see
Correct.
again, or if I've got some Cuban cigars that are 10 plus years of age. I don't have a lot of them left in my humidor, but I have some. Like those should be
But
enjoyed.
on the same token, that's part of our responsibility to be good stewards.
Yes.
Is not to put something like that in front of someone. Don't even make it an option.
Yep.
I don't want to put that pressure on anyone either.
Exactly.
I will-
because egos are going to take over. Going to be like, hell yeah, I want that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And nah.
I will tell you, I've experienced with ladies when I do my cigar service, and I always say, like, they always go, I always have a flavored, but I don't know about that. I said, listen, if you want to get rowdy and explore, let's go through a journey, especially the ones I know who come in at the same cadence, and then, you get them into some Connecticut's and some lighter stuff and get them going for that natural tobacco flavor. You know what I mean? And I think once they can have that paired with what they're drinking, but also it does depend, and if you're in a lounge, and it depends on like what you're drinking, right? They're gonna have a chocolate martini. You know what I mean? I'm like, listen, if you're gonna have this red wine, like you are gonna be addicted to this cigar, like with the red wine. Chocolate martini. I mean, I like a martini with a cigar, but like if it's that sweet, I like the martini sitting by itself, and I'll smoke the cigar after the martini. You know what I mean? But when you come in there and you just got to know your audience, and
That's
then.
it.
But we still didn't answer. How do you convince them?
I don't think it's convincing. I think it's taking people on a journey.
Okay.
Honestly, it's not like you can sit down with someone and be like, I'm going to turn you into a cigar smoker today. It's someone showing interest and then helping educate them and taking them on a journey. They need to be willing to go down that journey.
Oh, well, speaking of journeys, take a quick segue. What did you guys think of have you guys had this Padron 1964 pyramid?
Not
is what I
not
gave
yet.
you guys.
No, I'm still on the 2.0.
Oh, you haven't lit that one up
No,
yet?
no,
I'm
no.
on
I'm
the
about to. I'm about to. So
Probably should have followed your methodology first.
I thought we were
On this.
We got the order messed up.
yeah, it's all good. It's all good. What do you think of the new pork tenderloin, by the way?
Me?
Yeah.
There's completely no leather component
Yep.
that was predominant in
In
the original
the OG.
pork
Yep.
tenderloin.
Yep.
I think that would come with a little bit of age there too. But you have to smoke this without thinking of the original pork tenderloin.
the OG.
So if you do that, it's great on the retro white pepper.
Yep.
Pete Johnson does a wonderful job. The Toluxor series in itself is amazing.
Yep.
So like I don't want to diminish the brand, but it's not a pork tenderloin, and it shouldn't be marketed as a pork tenderloin.
The difference is the San Andreas wrapper.
Yeah.
That's the difference in the cigar
Yeah.
right now, right?
I'm getting more of a drier.
Yeah, me too.
Yep. Great tobacco component, like as far as tobacco flavor, white pepper, Nika 101, super cool, great stick. But I love
But not the OG.
Like I had that umami flavor on my palate every time I smoked a pork tenderloin.
I get that from the Japanese barbecue sauce I bought.
Oh, the umami sauce. You know what I'm saying, right? You know when you're like,
Yeah.
God damn, that cigar was freaking
full
tasty.
disclosure. Full disclosure. I pre-ordered these. I got them less than 2 weeks ago, and they've been in my humidor for maybe 2 weweeks, not even.
And
right?
Jason maintains the most impeccable humidor, I think, out of all of us.
Oh yeah, he's got stopwatches, Jim. As far as the agent on each of them, and he programs them, and he's got an app for skewing system.
I used to do all that, and then I don't know. I got lazy. I got lazy, and now I'm just like, it's yelling at me to add water. Okay.
I noticed that when I came in here for BSW. I'm like, the humidor's at 58. Oh shit!
I'm like, I don't stress about it now. I think it's kind of the similar, like when you get an electric car. At first, you're paranoid that you're going to run out of battery.
Yeah.
And then when you get to like my friend Kevin Finisterre, you guys probably know, he's like, you get over that over time, man. He's like, I've had down to 1%. It's fine. Now I'm like, oh, it's at 60. I'm like, at 60, it's not gonna ruin the cigars. It's fine. What's more dangerous is if it gets higher in, in humidity.
Totally.
So, Jim, you had a comment or question?
So, introducing people to cigars, I think it's a lot harder than it sounds. You know, especially if they've never smoked at all, they don't like the smell of smoke. You know, there's a certain kind of person that could be attracted to it just from a social aspect, yes, but it's similar to introducing people to whiskey and bourbon who, you know, they've been a vodka or tequila drinker their whole life, and they're very afraid of brown juices. The only difference is, you know, if I whip out the $2,000 bottle of Pappy 23, and I can pour just a tiny bit, and they can decide whether or not they like it, right? And I'm not throwing it away. But handing them a, you know, Year of the Rabbit, $110 a stick, and they get partway through and they go, oh, that's horrible, I hate that. You know, that's a big disappointment right there.
And you know what's funny though? What's funny what you say, Jim, is my wife has recently become more and more of a bourbon drinker, and she does a similar kind of thing. Like, I'll hand her a bourbon that I really like that's maybe a little more higher end, and she'll be like, oh, I don't like that. I'm like, really? That's Angel's Envy. Like, you don't like that? And then I'll hand her something, you know, completely different that's maybe a little less expensive than Angel's Envy. And she's like, oh, I like that one. So I'm trying to find like where her palate is landing for bourbon and keep that, you know, in stock for her.
So my wife enjoys Woodford Reserve Double Oak. Me, it's okay. It's an okay spirit. You know, nothing wrong with it. But she really likes it because it is a little bit on the sweeter side. Has a little tiny bit of a spice to it. And then she always eats a piece of chocolate with it.
Oh wow. Well.
Jim, quick question. Not to hyper focus on the price. $110 a stick for a Year of the Rabbit over there.
Exactly what I did as soon as he said that.
Is that like
truth?
Is that truth? Ish.
Well, if it's an average price,
Okay. It's 75 here. So just to give you an idea, and the only reason why is because I actually had a client who owns a restaurant who wanted 3 boxes of them. Wow. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna make some calls, but this is gonna cost you, you know, some money. You know what I mean? They're like, oh yeah, no problem, Joe. I was like, okay. And they were 75 a piece, no discount.
Yeah.
So they were 75 a piece here, and they're $110.
And I
that's
found him,
all taxation.
I found him on a deal. Regency had a deal where there were 50 a piece. And then they sold them at half price if you came in and bought a drink and bought a stick.
Nice.
And we paid 25 each. So
that's crazy.
I just want to go back to bourbon for a moment because my wife does this other thing recently. I don't know if you guys have also, like, quick segue, seen some of the like TikToks and short videos where it's about the husband and the wife, and the husband's like, anytime I put something down, my wife moves it and puts it away. I think a lot of us experience that. And so my wife is now doing this with bourbon. I have 2 decanters on the bar, and they have the staves in them, right? And I'll leave open bottles of bourbon on the bar, and then I'll wake up the next morning, and the bottles are gone, and the decanters are full. And I'm like, first, like, which one did you put in which? Like, I don't care that you did that. I'm not complaining. Like, love you. Like, but I'm like, which? I think
that
you
was
put
so sweet of you. But what did you put?
I don't want to get into a fight, but
and she'll just kind of laugh, and she'll like look up and think, and she's like, oh, I put that one and that one, and I'm like, that's cool. But she recently
don't do it again.
And I'll know by like, so I had a Russell's Reserve single barrel with bourbon with the red label. Are you familiar with that one, Jim? It's like, I think I might have sent you a picture of it. $67 a bottle, and it had a 1792 that had less in it. So I knew by volume which one she had done, and I was like, babe, good job with the Russells, because I thought that was a little sharp, in my opinion, and I thought decanting it with the stave was the way to go. And she just looked at me like, what did you just say? I was like, no, you did
Speaking
great.
of Russell's Reserve, you need to try the Russell's Reserve single rick house.
Okay.
It is like candy.
Single.
Rick House.
All right.
Single rick house.
Very nice.
I'm gonna look.
And that's one of the bottles I have in my locker at the lounge. Just shared it again last night. It's phenomenal. I think that's in my top 3.
Wow.
Is that the green bottle? Green label.
Yeah, green label.
And it's about the same price.
It's 112.4.
Oh, this is Russell Reserve Single Rick House Nelson is $67.30. This is just some random online site though.
Russell's Reserve.
Single rick house.
Interesting.
I'll have to look for the same because now I've been since the last time you came on the show, Jim. And when I go to a new liquor store, now I go right to the bourbon section and I'm like what haven't I tried? Like what looks good? And I send Jim a picture. I'm like, how did I do? I forget the last one I sent you what that was. That one was good too, though. What was that?
I don't remember.
It began with a P. It began with a P. What was it?
It's not
Don't say
Penelope, is it?
It was Penelope, wasn't it?
Penelope.
Penelope?
Yeah. It was one of the Penelopes, a single barrel.
Yeah.
I thought that one was pretty good too.
Is Penelope good? I haven't tried Penelope at all. Is it all right?
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
You know, it's not in my top 20, but it's pretty good.
All right. At some point, I want you to post your top
Yeah, wait,
20.
hold on. You got a top 20?
Yeah, that right, exactly. At some point, can you post your top 20?
I actually have a top 100 list of bourbon and a top 100 list of whiskey.
Where do you make that public? Or at least private for us. Can you post it in Slack for us?
Is that on threathunter.io?
Yeah,
like, where do I go? threathunter.io/bourbon?
No, .ai.
Oh, it's .ai. Okay.
/ whiskey.
Threat Hunter.
You got a 404?
Yeah, Threat Hunter AI. It's all about cybersecurity stuff, Jim. Where's the bourbon?
Did I tell you about what my daughter did? This was 2 years ago, or actually more. During COVID, she went through and took an inventory, unbeknownst to me, of all the open bottles, and then went and found all the retail prices of all those said bottles.
Hope she didn't speak to your wife.
and then blackmailed me.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say. I'm gonna tell mom.
Oh man, unbelievable. So one of the
No, so wait, so Jim, do you have a list that you share publicly?
I've never shared it publicly
or privately. Share it privately. It's all good. As long as you share it with stogies, we'll be happy.
But I think you should brand like your company with this list because like I would totally keep it on my phone or print it out. So when I go to a liquor store,
every time I go to a liquor store, I look at your top 100.
Yes,
I truly would. I really would.
Definitely.
I go to Whiskey
I'd have to be
Advocate and I
careful
look at their
of
top
this list because there is a guy named Jim Murray who actually comes out with this book once a year, and he's the one who selects whiskey of the year, bourbon of the year, scotch of the year, etc.
Yep.
Interesting.
Well, I think you should share it because I absolutely do the same. But what I do is I'll go to Whiskey Advocate and I'll look at their top and I'll walk through the whiskey aisles looking and I'm like, ooh, all right, let me grab that. And
Don't do that. It could be sponsorship revenue.
I know that's what I'm afraid of.
At least
that's what I'm afraid of.
is
That's what I'm saying.
what
I would use your list over that any day of the week because you're right. It could be sponsorships. That are
It's interesting though.
manipulating the
There is
choice.
with cigars and whiskey both, right? There's you got to consult the expert.
Yeah.
Because I belong to one of those online whiskey membership things.
Yep.
And so this, I don't want to give them like a free plug on the show, but so you subscribe, it's like $200 a year, and then you can go on, I think at least monthly,
Did they send you the little samples?
and they'll give you a sample.
Gotcha. Yep.
But they also have a store component where you can buy all kinds of like regular and rare bourbon, scotch, whiskey, all that stuff. And their prices like really fluctuate. So I was showing it to my friend Mark, and I'm like, oh, I can buy this. He's like, dude, don't. That's like double what you should be
Really?
paying.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Jim, I'll also consult with you because I want to place an order.
Yes, let's figure
some
out how to
stuff.
get that list to us.
During COVID, I started. We did it for almost a year and a half. I randomly chose people that signed up. It was a free thing, and I sent them. It was 25 people per month. I sent them 5 samples and a couple little presents. Nothing company related. It was purely about whiskey. And then we did Zoom tastings once a month.
That's awesome.
That's
cool.
super cool.
All right, I'm jumping in on the Patron.
Nice.
You have a nice article there pulled up on the computer. Why don't you bring that up? That's a good, good point.
I brought it up because of we see this a lot in the technology industry. We see it a lot in cybersecurity industry. The consolidation of companies, right? Yep. And the article that I pulled up, it was about Alec Bradley and STG, and we know that STG has been on a mission to take over the world. They bought Room 101,
yes,
and now Alec Bradley, and they're bringing on they brought Matt Booth on as the Room 101 like marketing lead.
I thought that was
something like that. They just did the same thing with the Sons from Alec Bradley.
I thought that was STG. I thought that Scandinavian Tobacco Group.
Company. Yep.
That's not who owns Davidoff, right?
No. Nope.
Okay. For some reason I thought Room 101 went to Davidoff, but that was Camacho that went to Davidoff.
Yeah.
Yes.
Christian
yes.
sold that to Davidoff.
So, but what they're doing is they're actually bringing on folks from the company they're acquiring to become their marketing people and their sales people and having leadership roles within the organization under the brand to be able to continue to run the brand. Because, I mean, we know Matt Booth has a brand, right? I mean, a lot of Room 101 is Matt Booth. It's there because of his brand and what he's created. Same thing with Alec Bradley. So they brought on the Sons, Alec and Bradley Rubin, to be their marketing leads for that line. You know, and we're seeing a ton of consolidation in the cigar market.
STG bought Cohiba, La Gloria, Macanudo.
The U.S. brands, though. It's the U.S. brands.
But who owned that? It wasn't General. What was the other one? It was General is the other set of Cuban brands. I've been wanting to unpack this on the show for a while.
Yeah.
But is consolidation a good thing?
That's why I wanted to bring this conversation up.
You know,
I mean, yet to be determined,
relating
right?
it back to cybersecurity, consolidation from my perspective is, and I'm going to sound mean, is one less competitor I have to deal with. When IBM goes and buys a competitor of mine, I know that competitor is taken off the board. Because sooner or later, IBM is either going to get disinterested in that new organization or it gets melded in to the Borg that is IBM. Likewise, when Google buys another cybersecurity firm, suddenly, that company disappears and is taken off the board. And when it comes to products like whiskeys or cigars, I think that's actually doing a disservice in a way to the general consumer, because now all of those products from that one main owner are all going to be very similar. They're going to come out sooner or later using the same juice, just under different labels.
And that's the fear that I have, right? The fear that I have is that the quality of what we're used to for these individual cigar brands diminishes. But the strategy that they're using is continuing to use the people who led the company originally. Now, whether or not they stick around for the long term is another question, right?
Right.
But they're keeping the founders of these companies around. I'm hoping to continue the quality. I don't know. Is it just for the brand?
They bought an asset, right? They don't want to diminish the asset right away, right? They need to keep that asset going. But for how long?
That's the question.
And then there's going to be the realization from the large corporate Borg itself going, hey, you know what? We really don't need those people anymore. We have our own sales team. We have our own marketing team. Give it 2 years and you'll start to see those people exit.
Right.
But it allowed them to ensure that asset isn't undervalued right away, or retailers take it off the shelf
and
right away.
And to keep the promoters of the brand around, us consumers who are promoters of the brand, to keep us around buying and evangelizing the brand.
So you identify with a market brand in conjunction with a personal brand is what you're saying. Yeah, and I think that's definitely a thing.
Absolutely. So the question is, this has all been happening over the course of the last couple of years that we're seeing this huge consolidation. I can't wait to talk about this 5 years from now and say what happened to these brands. Where is Room 101 today? Where is Alec Bradley today? Were they able to
Right.
keep that quality up? Were they able to keep the promoters of that brand around and the evangelists of the brand around, or did it all get watered down?
Okay, I have a ton to say about this.
Do it.
For sure. First of all, record-wise, on the record, Drew Estate Cigars went through this about 3 years off the top of my head. I lost a couple of years with having a 2-year-old, a 5-year-old, and COVID, right? So it could be like 4 years. So send all your hate email to paul@stogies.com, right?
They were
with that,
purchased by
Drew-
Swedish Match.
Swisher Sweets. I think it was three or 4 years ago, right? So Drew Estate did this, and Jonathan Drew, phenomenal company. Started, they have some infused stuff, but they also have some really good sticks. You also got to realize this: unlike some cybersecurity companies that get acquired, right, Jason?
Yep.
These companies that get acquired have marketing dollars and marketing powers that they haven't had those resources.
Sure.
Right? So they can do some super cool stuff. Also, with Drew, post acquisition of when Swisher Sweets took them over, like they've created some super awesome marketing campaign, especially with the Drew Freestyle, where they do a online event. Now this all came from COVID, but they send out a quote unquote mystery stick, and no one knows what it is. And anybody who purchased this package, and it comes with some swag and all that stuff, and then they reveal what it was. They've done so many cool brands since then with that methodology. So in the cigar field, that has proven to be very, very successful. You also got to remember, when they acquired Matt Booth, it was just Matt Booth. When they acquired Alec Bradley, they acquired Alan Rubin, founder of Alec Bradley, but then they also acquired the resources of Alec and Bradley, his two children, which is how the name came out above from his cigar company, right? And they've only come out with 4 sticks pre-acquisition. One of them was a collaboration with EP Carrillo, and then they've come out with some other sticks under there too. So I think it's going to give them 5 years from now.
Yep.
I think the quality is not going to be as washed out as we think it is.
Okay.
I think the creativity of what's to come is super cool. And what I like about when they're acquiring these brands, they also took with them a gentleman by the name of John Lipson, who was on this show here too. He was the director of marketing for Alec Bradley. I've had the opportunity to interview him. I think it was 2018. And, again, now they'll be able to take that small business survivor mentality with a bigger company and have better resources to create some super cool synergy and have some really cool things coming down the pipe.
I mean, like with any company, though, it's what you do with that, what you do with the resources, right?
Well, and it's what you do with that acquired brand.
That's right.
You acquire that company and you're planning to grow it and grow their brand and get them more resources. That's more
It
rare.
can be successful.
I think that's probably 20% of the time. I think 80% of the time it gets folded in, and profit becomes, they have to report to a board, and it becomes about profit. And so, they're cutting in whatever's most profitable.
It becomes about revenue generation and margin on that revenue.
Correct.
Those are the two things they're going to be looking at. Are they making margin?
They have to go to a board and say, we're making margin on this purchase or not.
Ultimately, they have to look to that board for that investment. And unfortunately, in those situations, bad decisions can be made that can affect quality.
Right.
So it's all about what they do with it. Hopefully they're responsible and want to maintain the brand.
It gets to be about cost cutting, right? Because we spent money to acquire this. Now we got to put more money to make more money. Right. And usually boards are like, yeah.
And really, what was the original intent in purchasing one of your competitors, right? Was it to build that brand even better than your own brands that you currently have? Or was it to take
them out.
A chess piece off the board?
Yeah. Right. A lot of times, Jim, you're right. It's taking when it's an IBM or, just taking the chess piece off the board, basically.
Yeah. So, and that's why I'm interested to see what happens 5 years from now.
Well, I think you're going to see less creative SKUs, but you're going to see better product. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So like someone like Matt Booth always had to create something new. He was a smaller company. Room 101 was smaller. Always had to create something new to stay in the limelight, There will be less SKUs, but I think the quality of the product will be pretty significant when they have product releases.
Yeah.
And when they start to collaborate is going to be super cool. I do agree with you that, say they came up with 10 new sticks every 2 years or something like that. It might be 5 every 2 years because, again, they do want to take a chess piece off the board.
Yeah.
But STG committed to acquiring 2 more companies besides, because their number was 4. And so they've already done 2. So there's 2 more. So you can start to speculate, like, what would they buy? Would they buy another smaller version like Matt Booth, or would they turn around and buy an Alec Bradley for $72.5 million? I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, you can also look at the beer industry. The craft beer industry. It was really booming tremendously, and then you had large organizations purchasing these smaller breweries and moving their production from the small brewery to the large facilities, and the quality of the product goes down, right? But the quantity went up. Now suddenly you can get, this certain beer across the whole U.S., whereas before you can only get in California.
Right. And they're going to be looking at operational efficiencies. How do we get efficiency in our operations to produce more? Right. And the question becomes, does the quality sustain? Right now, STG has 34 key brands, not every brand, what they consider key brands. There's 34 they need to manage now.
And 34.
That's a lot.
I got confused. It used to be that General Cigar and Altadis held the rights, and I'm not sure if there was legal battles that ensued for all of the Cuban brands in the U.S., right? Because Cohiba, that can be distributed in the U.S. that's not made in Cuba, and then there's Cohiba that comes from Cuba.
STG owns Cohiba U.S.
Right, and I thought that was General Cigar or Altadis, but Altadis was bought by Imperial Brands, and it's very confusing. Like I need like someone should do a documentary on like
we need a mind map.
The origins of Cohiba, Monte Cristo, Bolivar, all those original Cuban brands that companies started marketing those brands in the US after the embargo using non-Cuban tobacco. I don't think many of them had official legal rights to do that. There was some controversy that I remember talking about, but then those brands got split into different companies, and now those companies have been acquired by larger companies. And I think it's fascinating. I don't have the full map because it would probably take us 2 hours to go through the whole
it really would.
History behind it.
We should do a show on that, though. We should do some research. We should do some research and then bring it out and kind of talk through that timeline. I think it'd be cool.
And I just learned actually last night at the lounge about how much tobacco China is producing now.
Oh, that's interesting. I've never had a Chinese cigar before.
Right?
Right.
And Puerto Rico makes its own, has its own brands of cigars.
Yeah, they do. Yep.
There are some countries that you wouldn't think have their own, like grow their own tobacco, make their own cigars. We know the popular ones because that's what ends up in most of the cigars we smoke today. But there's a whole thing.
Yeah, so I mean, interesting that all this consolidation is happening, and yet to be determined on the quality, right? I mean, I wanna see how this all plays out.
For sure. Celebrities who smoke. Michael Jordan. The kids in the neighborhood are like really into basketball now.
Yeah,
and
totally.
they're consuming all this content on the internet.
Yep.
And so all this content on the internet is debating who's the greatest basketball player of all time. And I think it's kind of interesting. I like Michael Jordan, and one of the reasons I like Michael Jordan is because he's a cigar advocate.
Yep.
Right.
Same here.
I also like Larry Bird because we're from New England. And
exactly.
Celtics.
But yeah, I mean, there's tons going on. Jordan versus LeBron, and all of that going on, and who the best, who the GOAT is. But yeah, I mean, I grew up in that time period too, where Jordan. I mean,
we're very biased.
Totally.
Because I'll tell the kids, I'm like, but you never saw Michael Jordan play. Right. And then I'm like, wait, I really didn't watch a lot of LeBron play either. So we're kind of, okay, I get it.
Yeah, and I mean, if you start talking about OG cigar smokers in basketball, Red Auerbach.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
The owner of the Celtics. I mean, Jesus, I don't think I've ever seen a picture of him without a cigar in his mouth.
But now I'm Google searching for like content to show the kids to like show them like you've never seen Jordan play. You got to see clips.
Right.
So now when I go on social media, that all gets fed to me now. And
yeah,
I saw one of the games. It was probably from 80s, early 90s when Bird and Jordan were playing each other. Like, what was that time frame? Had to be late 80s, early 90s, right? Yep. And they're playing a game, and Jordan is just on fire. And the quote that got me, and I told my kids this quote this morning after I watched the video. I said, Bird after that game says something along the lines of, I wasn't playing Michael Jordan. I was playing God impersonating Michael Jordan.
That's pretty awesome.
I thought that was pretty. Yeah. So I keep that in mind when we have the debate that quote was said.
Right.
Yep.
And I mean, we talked about Jordan and his affinity for cigars, where he built his own cigar lounge in his mansion. I can't remember the exact number, but I think he had like hundreds upon hundreds of $1,000s worth of cigars in his own personal humidor. Like, just unbelievable. I mean, he was such a cigar aficionado at the end of the day.
Yes.
But again, our time frame, I think I have 80%, if not 90%, of the Sports Illustrated covers with Jordan on them.
Right.
At home in a box. Because I loved Jordan at that time. You know what I mean? He was the premier basketball player of my generation.
He liked to part against Lusitania.
Yes.
That's a classic Cuban cigar.
And that's an expensive cigar.
It's an awesome cigar.
It's an awesome cigar.
I've smoked that cigar a couple times.
I need to get some, but I want to say last time I checked, it was like $2,000 for 15 or 10 or something.
Oh, really?
It was insane. Hold on. I think I can find it. I'll find it really quick. Super expensive.
The Cuban version?
Yes. Hold on. I'll find it.
Going back to the question of what percentage of the American population smokes cigars, I have a better question. What percentage of the cybersecurity InfoSec people smoke cigars?
Yeah, right.
Because we're biased on that because we tend to hang out with, at cybersecurity conferences, other people that smoke cigars.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And so we think there's a lot because when we go to conferences, we're like, everyone hang out and smoke cigars.
Right.
But there usually is a contingency. So what Jeff was telling me when I go to the conference next weekend is that he's like, there's a contingency of cigar smokers that sit in this particular spot in the hotel where the conference is taking place, and we all have cigars. So we all bring our own, cigars and booze, and we commiserate in this area, and we should hang out there. I'm like, yes, that's where I want to be at the conference. DerbyCon was famous for that too. Hang out in the front, and I would go out and have a cigar, and all of a sudden people would just show up, and you're like, oh, you're into cigars too. Like, cool.
Yeah.
But going back to how can we get more people into our social club called cigars?
Yes.
I see a lot of below the age of 30-year-olds not smoking cigars in InfoSec.
Sure.
Yeah. No, I agree. Because I was really shocked when my nephew and his friends were like, oh, we love cigars. And we had a graduation party for him.
Which I happened to smoke a cigar with your nephew one day.
Yeah.
And he was into it, man.
Digging it. And with all
Totally
his friends,
into
I'm like,
it.
how did you guys get in? Maybe I was like the positive influence in that respect by him always seeing me because he would come over and have barbecue. I'd always have a cigar.
And again, it some of it's influence, right? Because I've told you guys the stories of my son and I. We love to go fishing, right? We love it. Absolutely love it. Him and I will be out in a canoe. He'll be in the front. I'll be in the back because I'm the engine. I'm the motor. I'm the one paddling while he's fishing. Basically, is what it boils down to, right? And he doesn't even know. He doesn't even know. I'll pull out a stick. I'll light a stick. I'm in the back of the canoe, and he'll lift his head up and go, and just sniff and go, God, I love the smell of cigars, Dad.
Well,
he will be a cigar smoker when he turns 18. I can guarantee it.
But he associates the smell of cigars with fishing. With fishing.
Yeah, our relationship, right? The relationship that he has with his dad. Yeah. He's going to associate that. And, I can see him at 18 years old being, Dad, it's time.
My dad was funny. My dad passed away a few years ago, but he used to go on vacation to Aruba, and he would stuff his socks with Cuban cigars wrapped in cellophane.
Really?
And he would stuff them all in his socks. So when I think he used to take a cruise. So he got off the cruise ship, He was basically smuggling back all these Cuban cigars.
Yep.
And we would be in North Carolina where we'd go fishing all the time.
Yep,
We'd
yep.
sit on the back porch and we would smoke Cuban cigars. And we'd also in North Carolina go to JR Cigar, who ironically posted the article about Jordan.
Yeah.
There was a JR Cigars in the 90s in North Carolina. And we'd go there and shop for cigars and
Yep.
we'd sit on the porch and smoke cigars.
Now, is your relationship with your dad what got you interested in cigars?
Oh, yeah.
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 See, that's the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, I see my son
'Cause it
as
was-
that,
right.
8 years from now or 6
Right.
years from now when he's 18, I see that it's going to be that similar relationship, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure you have memories.
I don't even know if I was 18 at the time. I might have been in high school.
Well, yeah,
and it was the 90s. And it was like, oh, you're gonna like what prompted it was like, oh, like you're old enough now because the 90s you're in high school, like you can smoke whatever. And we go to JR's and like
I'm not saying that won't be the case, but I'm just
Right?
not letting mom know that.
yeah, don't tell mom. And we go to the cigar store and I'd pick out a Macanudo Portofino, was
Yep,
my favorite
yep,
cigar at the
yep,
time because
yep,
it was a light cigar.
yep.
It came in a
I
tube.
remember that cigar.
And that's what I would smoke. He would smoke, different cigars,
Sure.
but
Yeah.
we'd
That's
sit
awesome.
on the back screen
And
and porch
I see
and
that
have
happening,
cigars.
right? I see that happening where he's gonna associate cigars with his relationship with dad, and he's gonna be 18 years old and he's gonna be smoking cigars, guaranteed. You know,
He'll
and-
be
I
before
think-
18 now.
I
oh
think-
yeah, totally. It will be. It will be.
At DEF CON, they should allow smoking in the CTF.
Yeah. Why
Can you
not?
imagine 3
Oh my
days straight,
God.
in
Oh
the
my
CTF?
God. Yeah, right. Holy shit. Partagas 2011 Lusitanas on one of our favorite shops.
Mm-hmm.
2,100 for a box of 25.
Wow.
7.6 ring gauge 49.
That's and you gotta see what makes me cringe when I think about that is how many of those are going to be plugged or not smoked.
Oh, I know. I think the last time you told me at least 20% are
Yeah.
plugged. And a plugged cigar, is there any coming back from it? Can you fix
Well, a lot of Cubans know.
that? No, it's just too
Because the wrap is so delicate.
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
the wrapper.
Too much.
You have a polka from that guy who was a
And that's what I'm
surgeon.
saying.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I have one of those cigar daggers, really, really thin poker. It's
Yeah.
nice and long. And I'm always like, well, if I do order Cubans and they're plugged, can I use that to fix it?
Paul has one. Do you still
Very,
have that?
I think so. Yeah, very small percentage of the time can you poke it and
Yeah.
have it come back to life. Because what happened, when you poke a cigar, you got to remove tobacco from it, and it just doesn't scrape out enough
Right,
tobacco
right.
to unplug it. I do have to say, I was smoking a Bolivar. It's funny. It's called Bolivar Royal Coronas, but it's a Robusto.
Hey, really fast. I'm moving on to Old Rip Van Winkle now.
Ooh, nice.
Nice. Look at you.
Jealous.
So if anybody wants to invest in $84 a stick and go buy a box of 25, I'm game to invest. I'll go thirds or whatever we want to do, but I'd love to smoke a Lusitania. I've never smoked a Lusitania. And you guys know my descent is Portuguese. Lusitania is a thing for Portuguese descent, right? So
Oh, interesting.
yeah.
Yeah. So the Bolivar Royal Coronas were really good, by the way. Those are probably as old as those Lusitanias you're talking about. They're probably around the same age. If I think about when I was buying
2011?
and tried to keep them kicking around in my humidor, probably not as old as that, but
Yeah.
pretty close. And they're smoking really good right now.
Are they?
Yeah, I smoked a couple and they're really good.
Yeah. So if anybody wants to go in with me, I might throw down.
For Lusitanias,
Yeah, I might throw down.
I
I know,
cringe at the.
$84 a stick, man. That's
Well, and if it's gonna be plugged, that's
I know. It's the risk, right?
why I like smoking Davidoff. Jim's got right.
Drones,
Exactly.
absolutely. I know.
Thank you.
Yeah. That's why I haven't ordered a lot of Cubans. I'm like, if I'm going to spend the money, I'm going to do Davidoff or Padron.
Yeah, I know. I feel you.
So we have to wrap the show up.
Yeah.
But thank you, everyone, for listening and watching this edition of the Stogie Geek Show. We'll see you next time.